Welcome back to the world headquarters of Planetary Judaism. And I say that with the hope that there will soon be all kinds of headquarters for Planetary Judaism all over the globe. But we're happy to be back from our particular place, and we hope wherever you are is also a headquarters and center for Planetary Judaism. So we're back today with a few words to offer some planetary meta-Torah related to the Parshat Va-Yetse. And I want to begin with just the basic pasuk that begins this Parsha, and then we'll have some couple of comments from the Degel Machne Ephraim, the grandson of the Baal Shem Tov, something from the Baal Shem Tov, and as we usually do, a couple little pieces from Rabbi Nachman of Breslav's teaching. So I want to begin the verse. The parsha begins, "V'yetse Yaakov mi be'er shava v'yelech harona." The very first verse. Yaakov went from Be'er Sheva, or Be'er Shav in the verse, and set off for Haran. Now, in the Hasidic tradition, there are a lot of comments going back to the Baal Shem Tov that understand this verse on a kind of spiritual, psychological level. Whereas Be'er Sheva means the well of seven, literally is a way of referring to the Shekhinah. Now, we have to look into what do we mean by the Shekhinah exactly. We have talked about it. It's such a major concept in Kabbalah and Jewish mysticism, but it could use a little clarification in terms of how we want to look at the cosmos, how we want to look at the universe today from the planetary consciousness perspective. So from that perspective, the simplest meaning of Shekhinah, of course, it means indwelling presence. Now, what is this indwelling presence? The important thing is to take it out of a merely psychological perspective. Because as long as it is understood psychologically, you run the risk of dualism, and which has been a pervasive element in Jewish thought and even in mysticism. So even though people think they're getting to some kind of non-duality through these teachings that are primarily, I would say, reduced to the psychological, it's not the non-duality that is the non-duality of non-dualities. It's a non-duality that is, in a way, Buddhists have a concept sometimes they say it's a kind of a false enlightenment. So it has certainly a great value and meaningfulness, but the problem with it is that it can delude us into being satisfied with something that isn't really quite whole. That's because there's a separation connecting to the sense that the sacred, the spiritual, the psychological is somehow separate from everything else, from the universe where we actually are. So we need to take, if we want to move into planetary consciousness, we need to take the Shekhinah beyond the psychological and understand it as the indwelling presence within the universe itself. And in particular, since we are earth beings, it's that sense of unifying presence that a sensitive person who's open to it can experience in this very world, this very earthy world that we are part of. Okay, so the Shekhinah means that, so when that indwelling presence, that could be called spirit, but I was trying to avoid terms that suggest something separate and have the understanding of a certain way of being in this world in which a human is cognizant of how there is a unifying field of presence, of palpable presence that is everywhere, that one finds oneself. And so then the verse means, if we still build on the basic Hasidic idea, but we take it in, we move it into planetary consciousness, or planetary Judaism, then Va-Yetse Yaakov miBe'er-Sheva, V'yelech Harona means something like what was called in the Baal Shem Tov's day a yurida, or something of a reduced state of being in presence, falling, so to speak, out of an integrated consciousness in which the Shekhinah is realized as present and unifying everything, including ourselves and everything else, into a state that that was called katnut, or katnut mochin is considered a lesser form of consciousness or being, which means that one isn't consciousness of these things. It isn't consciousness of any indwelling presence that is unifying everything. And that is called, so it's indicated that Charona means going towards Charon. Charon means really anger, the angry state, the state of irritation, the state of, sometimes called the state in which judgment is running havoc through our experience with us, not only psychologically, but so the very sort of feeling tone of our experience and what things seem to be happening around us. Okay, so then that would be what Va-Yetse is about, when one is falling out of, or when one's consciousness is coming out or coming down from a more integrated state and falling into the state that could be called the angry state, the state that is not the happy state, because the really fullness, non-dual, embodied experience of being in the universe is always associated with simcha, with joy, with some kind of happiness, some kind of which doesn't mean, again, it's not to be confused with a condition in which the mind is not making discriminating judgments, or a state in which one is not sensitive to injustice. One is perceiving all these things, but yet, to use Reb Nachman's terms, you're not falling into yi'ush, you're not despairing, you're not really getting depressed by the whole thing. So you're seeing everything, but it's not depressing you. So it's because you're in the higher state, or in the really non-dual, the unified state, the Shekhinah is providing a certain energy, a certain balance, and so forth. But when one loses that, so you go from that to the anger, to the condition where anger arises, and then the Torah says, "V'yifga b'makom." So Yaakov is the person on the journey. Yaakov is on this journey, the journey that we're all on, the hero's journey, the archetype of the hero, and is progressing, or in a sense falls at some point into some kind of dark night of the soul, if you like to use these images. But in that, he stumbles upon, V'yifga b'makom means he stumbled upon this place. Let's just read a little bit how the Torah describes it. Stumbles on this place, Vayalen Sham. He rested there, he stayed there, basically, is what Yalen, he stayed there. I mean, he's not moving. He comes to a stop at this place. Ki Shemesh, sun is setting. The sun's a very, very powerful image, because for an earth being, every culture that has been really aware of themselves as earth beings recognize their dependence on the sun. That the earth has a certain primary dependence on the light and energy that's coming from the sun, and the energy comes from the sun. It comes into the earth's various fields. So there's a tremendous relationship to the sun and interconnectivity with the sun, recognition of the sun, and appreciation for the sun. So the sun is setting is another way of understanding that the condition of one's being is coming into the darkness. It's instead of enlightening, it's in darkening. But he stumbles on this place that's in darkening condition, and he stays there. Kiva shemesh v'yikach me'avnei makom v'yasem me'roshotav. He took a stone from that place, and he set his head. He put his head on the stone, a stone that he found in this place. And you get how organic that is. Just look at stone that is from that particular place that he stumbled on, and that's where he puts his head. So his head, he's tuning in to the organic vibrations of this place that he comes to. And he enters into a form of prophetic consciousness which is called dreaming. And in this dream, he has a vision of this ladder that connects heaven and earth. And there are these beings, these angels are going up and down. In other words, he envisions a kind of feedback loop. And he recognizes in this prophetic state of consciousness that he picks up through tuning in to the organic vibrations of the stones that he found in this particular place. And I'm sure he didn't just pick up any old stone, but he was able to find a stone there that was probably very ancient, and that was tremendously encoded. And with capacity to receive and transmit prophetic messages, and that's how he entered into this prophetic consciousness. The consciousness shows and reveals to him that there is a feedback loop, and he between heaven and earth means from heaven here means the creative intelligence in the universe itself. And earth means where it is being received specifically by earth beings through the receptivity that the earth has to the universe's innate intelligence that is always feeding back and forth. That's what he sees in the vision. The Yachlon, he sees this. He sees that, and the angels in my part of the country are called the Señores y Señoras de la Luz, the lords and ladies of the light. And the people around here, the old wise people where I live, they always get up before sunrise so that they can greet these angels that Yaakov sees in this particular prophetic vision, because they bring the flow of blessings to the earth every day. And if a person tunes into that, then that's real enlightenment. The real enlightenment, not the sort of abstract psychological enlightenment, but full-bodied, wholehearted, planetary enlightenment. So it comes by way of these beings, these messengers that flow back and forth between the sun and the earth. Okay, so Vihine Yudhe Vave Nitzavala. Then he realizes that when he's tuned in to this enlightening energy flow between the heaven and the earth, that Yudhe Vave is surrounding him. He's in the presence of Yudhe Vave. V'yomer. And then there's a message. He receives a direct message, which in the interest of time, I'm going to skip, although it's in itself very important. But I want to get to the awakening from this dream, where Yaakov says, V'yash came Yaakov b'boker. He woke up in the morning and he took a stone. He took this stone that he had rested his head on, and he made it into an altar. A matzevar, literally a pillar, but really means he made it into an altar. He made it an altar. An altar is a place which marks the sacred interface. And so he sets up this altar. Actually, I want to go back to the verse before that. He says, he woke up, V'yikatz Yaakov mishnatav v'yomer achen yesh yud hei vavei b'mkom hazeh v'anochi lo yadati. This yud hei vavei is actually in this place, but I didn't know it. V'yira v'yomer, and when he realized that, he started to tremble. His whole body, he gets his whole body shock, a shock of awakening, and he says, "Ma nora hamakom hazeh." How awesome this place is! Ein zeh ki'im beit Elohim v'zeh shar shamayim. This is the house of God, and it's really the gate of heaven, shar shamayim. Okay, so I want to add. I mean, this is so incredibly profound, but I just want to point to a couple of things. I think, first of all, from the Baal Shem Tov, the Degel Machan Ephraim, as I said, the basic direction of Chassidut, as most people have understood it, is psychological. And so, if you look at, let's look at the Degel for a second. Degel says, he says that when you're in a place where you need to elevate yourself, as we said before, because you're in this darkened condition, then he brings a teaching from his grandfather. Baal Shem Tov quotes a verse from Deuteronomy, which is Deuteronomy 4:29. It says, "Ubikashtem misham et yudhei vavhei elokecha umatzata." From that place, you will seek yudhei vavhei, and you find yudhei vavhei. From that place, the Baal Shem Tov says, "V'zeu misham mimakom shehu sham." Baal Shem Tov says, from that very place that you were in. Now, here's the cha that we have in the rabbinic tradition. We have Hamakom is a name of God, and everybody God is called the place. But the problem is, if you're still thinking that God is separate from the universe, then you just have this sort of cute name. You can call God the place. We think in terms of panentheism or something like that, and that's fine. But you're missing the real point. The point is, if we take this really to heart, then the Baal Shem Tov is the very place that you were in, the actual place. The actual place. Then look back at what this verse is saying. He came upon a place. And what he realized is this is the important thing. That place is where God is. That's the shock that he awoke, that he awakened to. God is in this place. I didn't know it. This very place that I'm in. And it doesn't matter where that place is. It's because Melochol Arts Kavodo, any place, the entire earth. So the entire earth is Hamakom. Because and so now let me go. That's like such a deep thing. I'm just gonna leave you with that because it is so powerful. I just want to add a couple things from Reb Nachman that he has. He comments on B'zeh Shar Shamayim. He says, "Ikar Tefillah Eino Ela B'Eretz Yisrael." We've talked about this before. That when it comes to prayer, you need to be in the land of Israel. But the land of Israel is a way of talking about the condition of consciousness that you need to be in, because really the land of Israel in that sense is anywhere. And that's why there was already a big shift in the history of Hasidism. They couldn't get to the physical land of Israel, so they started to understand that where the Rebbe was the land of Israel. Where a kever is, where Reb Nachman is buried, is the land of Israel. And actually, if you really take this deep and look into it, you could anywhere is the land of Israel, because the land of Israel is Hamakom. It's the place where God is. But God is in every place. You just don't know it. And that's what happened, what Yaakov Avinu realizes in this Parsha. I didn't know it. I came upon this, I stumbled upon some place, and lo and behold, God was in that very place. Okay, so that's, Reb Nachman is saying that in order for prayer to work, you have to believe that Hashem Yitbarach is Mechadesh Olamo B'Chol. This is, let's translate this. I mean, literally, Reb Nachman is saying you have to, for prayer to be something you can resort to and believe in, and to have power and be an efficacy. He's saying you need to believe that there is a force that is renewing creation at every moment. Now let's put that in a more up-to-date context, and we will, for doing this, we will plug into the cosmology, a little piece of the cosmology of Whitehead, that the universe is organismic. It's not a machine. It is not a machine. And here is one of the big adjustments we have to make. We have to drop all of this computer stuff as if we're machines. We are not machines. We are organisms, and the universe as an organism is not a machine. We should have gone with Leibniz and not Newton. So forget about the whole Newtonian thing with the dualistic mind and the universe as a machine. It's monads. It's more like monads, but even better than that, people like Whitehead and others have refined the alternative view that the materialists, even though they're completely befuddled by consciousness, don't appreciate. But if we tune in to the organismic model, and the understanding that the universe is inherently creative, because it's an organism and not a machine. It doesn't depend on some programmer that is outside of itself. It is self-creative at every moment and at every level. This is what the emunah is that a person needs for prayer to be effective and powerful. You have to believe the paradigm of Whitehead and those like him who are saying that the universe is not a machine. In that sense, look how Reb Nachman puts it in his somewhat outdated language, but I think it's easily updated if you want to look at it this way. It says, "V'afilu she'hateva mechayev davar ma, Hashem Yitbarach yechol l'shanoto." Even if the nature requires something to be a certain way, Yud-Hey Vav-Hey has the power to change it. Now, we have to be careful here, because I don't want to go with Newton. Yud-Hey Vav-Hey is not some computer programmer who can, as Newton, once in a while, when things are really messed up, he can restore your computer. But rather, there is a creative intelligence inherent within this very universe itself, within every organism within that universe, including ourselves, and all interconnected by this feedback loop that's represented as the angels in this paradigm in the Parsha. And that's what's essential. This is the consciousness that's essential for prayer. That a person understands that you are an organism that in a kind of nested hierarchy. That doesn't come from Wilbur. This comes from Whitehead and all kinds of really much clearer, more profound thinkers. But if you heard it from Wilbur, be glad, thank Wilbur for popularizing the idea, because it's very important. Okay, so we're really better to think that, and this better to believe as an emunah, as a paradigm, that we are organisms that are part of a nested hierarchy of organisms within organisms within organisms, all interconnected through a kind of creative intelligence that flows through the whole thing. And by virtue of that model, there is what I would call wiggle room. That used to be called bechira, or freedom of free will. Free will means each organism, even though it can never be and is not completely independent, so it can never, none of us or no thing can ever be completely independent and determine what happens for the totality. Nevertheless, every single organism is contributing to the creative process at every moment. And when it comes to a consciousness like human consciousness, which has the amazing capacity to make the universe self-aware, the power of exercising bechira, of this wiggle room that we have, this freedom, is really quite magnified in comparison to any other type of consciousness, as far as I know at this point. And so prayer, as Nachman said, if you're in the land of Israel, prayer can be you have to be in the land of Israel, but that means you have to wake up to the fact that you have stumbled on this place, and the very place you're in is the ladder, and it is Shar HaShamayim. It's the gate to heaven, the very place you're in. God is in this place. What is God? It's Yud-He Vav-He is a way of representing the creative intelligence that runs through every level of the universe, unifying every single organism, and which is giving and receiving at every moment. And it is that is bringing creation into a new form. So it's that this organismic universe is in a process of creation, and you can influence, be a co-contributor to that process of creation. That's the power of prayer. And with that, I want to stop this Parsha today and leave you with these things. And I hope that we will all be awakened somehow to stumble on the fact that the very place we are in is the Shar Shemaim. It's the gate to heaven. And all we have to do is understand that Yud-He Vav-He is filling this place, and that we are connected by this ladder to all the sources that our earth requires for its well-being. So may we all align ourselves to that and be helpers in this emerging evolutionary process. Peace.